Okay, today is Wednesday. It is 7:39 p.m. It is November 12th. Uh, Today, uh, I failed the 10K uh, uh, phase 1 challenge. I wrote it all the way down to minus 10% and it's over. Then I bought another 10K challenge. And then I was doing well. I was at about 1.4%. And all of a sudden something so I ended the day, and then now I was on the second day, and then something triggered in me to go really big on gold. And so now I was up 1.4%. Now I'm down 3.5%. So and then I'm like scratching my head. How did this happen? Then I realized something about addiction. Okay, I realized something about addiction. Okay, uh, and subconsciously, subconsciously. So what seems to be happening is this. Okay, so there's a subconscious and there's addiction, and the addiction uh, is contagious to the subconscious. So the addiction jumps on into the subconscious. And so even though the logical side is logical, it cannot see it because it's subconscious. And then it just keeps rearing up. And then all of a sudden I start to trade and then something happens and I'm wondering how did that happen? It seems to be so obvious, but it does happen. So it seems to me what happens is that uh, there is a contagion. It's contagious. Okay, addiction is contagious, and so within me there is a spark of there's a spark of addiction in me. And when somebody who is also addictive, they'll come over and they'll transfer that addiction right over. Okay, so I was unemployed, and I had to pay child support, and I couldn't pay child support, and so there was a $10,000 uh, 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 a bond, a $10,000 uh, a warrant. I think it's called a warrant, $10,000 warrant or something like that. And so I was in the lower Buckeye of the Arizona, and so what they do is they temporarily house people who are being determined to go to wherever they need to go. And so what happens is that because I was alone, and when I'm in there, they'll keep you in there unless you pay the warrant, which is the 10K. But if you're in there, you can't pay. Okay, uh, so apparently what you can do is you can call bail bonds and then figure something out. But since I didn't have anything, right? Since I didn't have anything, I was like I was gonna be living there for the rest of my life. That's how it is. If you have no friends or families or no money, you're living there forever. You can't pay it. You're just living there. So then so they stack you on like this bunk bed, and so um, this one guy who only had to pay like $50 and for some sort of infraction, and he's out of there, right? And he, so we were right next to each other, and then one guy comes over, and he comes over and talked a little bit, but I could see that his eyes were like bloodshot, and it was like it was like it was like in the zone or something. It was like it's like it's like those people with like their eyes are like frozen. Okay, it's like frozen with something and twitchy and things like that. So he left after a brief discussion of whatever it was, and the guy who's next to me, who was more astute than I was, and he says, "That guy's a drug addict. That guy's addicted to drugs." And so he was like bug-eyed, right? And so what happens to people like myself, who is also a day trader and who is also along with like poker players and things like that, is there is a people who go online and spend money to play poker and things like that. They have they have they can get addicted to whatever they're doing. Okay, so I can easily get addicted because I'm a day trader, right? And so for other people, it may be less, uh, because they're a swing trader or something. But definitely, definitely, what happens is that there is a spell of a good quiet period, and then the addiction just jumps in somehow, some sort of like a spiritual kind of thing that transfers over to the subconscious, and then just taps into that addiction, and things just goes awry for and it soon I realized, hey, that challenge is gone. And so is this. So this happened like 3 weeks ago. I was moving along fine. I was trading the right way, and I was making money, but it wasn't fast enough. But I found myself after having a conversation with somebody about when I was having a conversation. And so what seems to have happened is that there was a transference there was a transference of that addictive personality that jumped onto my subconscious side. And since then, that spiritual addictive person has been living in my subconscious, dictating how I'm going to trade. It just jumps out and that does that. And it takes a while to get rid of it. So there is there is something called a addiction contagion. Okay, addiction is contagious. Okay, addiction is contagious. Yeah, and I contracted it about 3 weeks ago, and I'm suffering it right now, along with a cold. I have a couple things that I'm suffering right now. Okay, one of them is a cold, and the other is addiction that I contracted. Okay, so that's how it works. Wow. So how do I? So I need to be more conscious about. I have to be conscious of this because it's like I'm like I'm like 1.4% into day two of trading, and all of a sudden I put out like a 50 milli lot. I'm thinking, whoa, on AU, and if it goes the wrong way, it's over with, right? If I trade small, I have an opportunity to weather the swings so that it eventually goes into the right direction. Some weird thing just occurred. So something called a addiction is contagious, and it jumps right into the subconscious.